My name is Amy Ryder. I'm the district librarian for Spruce Mountain, and this workshop is called Diversify or Readalouds. Our goals for this workshop are to share some new, exciting picture books and beginning chapter books with you that you might not already know about, that feature diverse characters, and that you're going to be really excited to bring into your classroom and share with your students. So I have a lot of really exciting titles to share with you today. And before we start, I want to share some other resources with you and some background information to help you understand why this topic is so very important and why you are spending time learning a little bit more about it today. I'm sure if you're here, you already have your own reasons, but this is just some research and some pedagogy to back up everything that you know is the right thing to do. So let's get started. Here's a great graphic from the website We Need Diverse Books, showing us a lot of the different ways that characters in books can be diverse. Today we're focusing most of the titles that I've picked are feature children who are Black and brown, but you will see lots of different types of diversity in the books that you can definitely use and share with your kids. And I hope you find some amazing titles that you're really excited about working with. So we all know that it's so very, very important to fulfill kids' needs so that they can learn. So we spend a lot of time in teaching, working on Bloom's taxonomy and working on making kids be able to apply and analyze, evaluate the things that they learn and not just learn them word for word, but to really understand them and be able to use them to create new things and combine things in new ways and work with things in new, creative, and interesting ways. And that is amazing. And that's the goal. And in order to meet that goal, kids have to feel that their basic needs are being met. So it's really hard to be able to learn if you don't feel like you belong in a space. And the ways that we know that we belong is that we see ourselves and our culture and the ways that we are represented. So if a student, just imagine that a student walks into a classroom and every single poster around the room, the characters in the posters look like them. And every book that they read, the characters look like them. And every video that they watch, the people look like them. That sends a message that that student belongs. And when they go to the lunchroom, the foods that they eat remind them of them. And they look around and the teachers look like them and adults that they know. And there are a lot of ways that we communicate who belongs in a school. And one of the ways that we can make our schools feel more accepting and help students feel more like they belong is to make sure that those classroom decorations, that the books that we read, that the movies that we watch include different types of people to help build that sense of belonging. So it's not as clear of this type of person really belongs in this space and this type of person doesn't, because everyone belongs here. And yes, we have our own cultures and we have predominantly one skin tone of person here in our district, but everyone belongs. And should someone show up tomorrow who does not look like the rest of us, they need to know that they belong. And it's also important for our students as they grow and are exposed to more different types of people with different skin tones, different family makeups, different abilities, to be able to understand that those people also belong. And having everyone belong doesn't mean that people who are white like me belong any less. We all are part of this together. And the more that we all feel like we belong, the better that we can meet our needs so that we can learn. So from a very practical sense, even if, of course, we care about our kids and we want them all to belong, we understand that that's important. It's especially important because our job is to teach them, and they cannot learn if they do not feel that sense of belonging. Or maybe they can, but it's harder if they don't feel that sense of belonging. So this is the amazing Dr. Rudy and Sims Bishop, who's done a lot of work on children being able to see themselves in the books that they read, and children who are in the majority being able to see children who are different from them in the books that they read. And this is a great quote from her where she says, "When children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in the society of which they are a part." Thinking of my own life and the different types of media that I've consumed and the different images that I've seen of people who don't look like the average person from our town, I feel that because I understand that sometimes the images that we see are distorted. They're not showing all people as just your regular child. They're pointing out differences more than similarities. And so in this presentation, I'm really going to try and focus as much as I can on showing kids the ways that all people are similar, showing kids who look different maybe than what our kids might expect, doing the same types of things that our kids do, and showing the ways that we all are similar and all are connected. This is Dr. Bishop's, one of her major ideas that she's very well known for. She says that a book is a piece of glass, and a book can be a mirror, a window, or a door, sliding glass door. And this is the idea behind that. A book is a mirror means that when someone reads the book, they see themselves reflected in the book. So they read the book and they say, yes, I understand that. That is me. A book is a window means that someone is reading the book and looking as if they're looking through the window of your home into and learning about something that is different from them. Now they can relate to it, of course. As she says, even in her work, sometimes a window can be a mirror for a second. Like if it's a little dark, you see yourself reflected, but the main thing that you're doing is you're looking through and learning and absorbing what someone else's life is like, which is so important to building empathy for that person. And the last one is a book can be a sliding glass door, which means you can look through, you can see what's happening inside, and then you can open that door and go in, and you have a little bit of background knowledge and feel like you belong in that space. So I think that's a wonderful metaphor that we can all carry with us. Sometimes we think, oh, I've chosen this book that features a Black child because I want my Black child in my classroom to feel a sense of belonging in the classroom. And yes, that's incredibly valuable and important. And don't forget that book can also be a window for the other children to see that child reflected in their books and other children who look like that. I make a point to try to choose books that feature all kinds of diverse kids when I go into classrooms and read to kids. And it is almost 100% of the time that if there is a student of color in the book, that the other kids will say, that looks like me, or that looks like someone I know. That person in the book looks like a girl on my bus. That person in the book looks like a boy at my daycare. That looks like my friend or my cousin or someone that I saw on TV. They always, always notice it. It's so very important to building that sense of belonging. And the reason that they're pointing it out, and they don't always point it out with a white child, I think, is because they're not used to seeing it in books all of the time. And we can do better. Here's a whole bunch of links for more information. So if you have the handout for this workshop today, these are the links that are in the handout that you have, and I'm going to go through them with you really quickly. So the first section are places where you can find diverse books. Of course, you can come to your library, talk to your librarians, especially if you're part of my district. Absolutely come and talk to me. I love to share about new books that I found that I think you will enjoy. If you say, this is what I'm looking for, I've got that in the back of my mind, and I'm looking for, as I'm reading reviews and talking to booksellers and different things, I'm keeping that in mind. Oh, so-and-so is looking for this, and I'll try my best to find that for you. But if you want to do a little looking around on your own, which is also fun, these are some great resources. So the first one is We Need Diverse Books, where I got the wonderful graphic that started our slideshow today. So the link that's here you can use, and then you will go to resources and then where to find diverse books. And it gives you a whole bunch of suggestions, ideas on places to find suggestions for diverse books. A lot of these suggestions will come from authors and illustrators, book reviewers, booksellers, bloggers of color themselves. And so you know that the things that they're suggesting are things that people who are in the community and in the culture are finding a lot of value in. That's really important. It doesn't necessarily matter all that terrible much what it looks like to someone who's on the window side of the equation. If people who are on the mirror side are saying, yes, this really does reflect my life and my experience, and it's important for my story to be heard, that's important for us to listen to if we are on the window side. The next one is the Cooperative Children's Book Center has a recommended book search tool, and you can go in there and search for books that they have recommended in the past and now. And I have some search tips there for you, which are, you're going to go to that link, you're going to leave all the fields blank, and you can limit by diversity subject, and you can also add ages and publication year if that would help narrow it down for you. If you don't want something that's like super old, or you want to make sure that it works for your kindergartners, you can limit in that way. If you want to make sure that it has a certain type of diversity in it. If you are looking for books about, let's say, someone with a hearing impairment, then whether or not their family structure is a certain way doesn't really make any difference to you. So you can say that I'm looking for diversity in terms of hearing ability to narrow it down. That's just an example. The next one is from our friends at Bates College right here in Maine. The library at Bates College has made this really cool tool that's called the Diverse Book Finder. And you can go into that and search for books on all different types of topics, children's books on all different types of topics. It's really helpful and it's a great resource. This one, the books they know cover the diverse subject that you're looking for. They will explain this on the website, but they don't necessarily 100% recommend all of the books as being of the best quality. And so you would want to, if you find a book that looks interesting to you, you would want to, of course, preview it and just check it out and make sure that you think that it's a good quality book. The next one is the I'm Your Neighbor book project. Again, this is a Maine homegrown amazing project. So the idea of the I'm Your Neighbor book project is to create welcoming for new immigrants in their communities, their new communities, through children's literature. So as in southern Maine and central Maine, we've known recently to have a lot of new immigrants coming to the country from all over the world, and the people from Maine not necessarily knowing a lot about how to be good neighbors to those people. And so the I'm Your Neighbor book project has great book recommendations that teachers can share in their classroom, families can share at home, that kids can enjoy in all different, and adults can enjoy in all different types of ways to help everyone feel welcome. Despite our differences, what are all the similarities that we have, and how can we let everyone know that Maine is a place where they are welcome? And then my last place to find diverse books is this amazing marketplace called First Book. So First Book Marketplace sells low-cost children's books to schools that are Title I or any school with 70% low-income students. They have a simple form you fill out to show if you qualify. You register on First Book Marketplace, and then you can purchase books for very affordable prices. $2, $3, $4. If it's a hardcover, maybe as much as $6 or $7. Wonderful prices. A great place to go and look for new titles. And they really focus on diversity and having a lot of different types of titles for all different types of kids. So now let's talk about some low-stress ways to add some diverse books into your classroom. I know that sometimes thinking about all of the things that we should be doing as teachers in our classroom, it's totally overwhelming because there's no way that we could ever do everything. And so I'm going to try to share some ways that I think bringing more diverse books into your classroom is not going to be an add-on and an extra thing. It's maybe even in some cases going to be something that can be a little bit helpful. So the first one is videos. You don't have to read all these books to your kids. In fact, you'll see as I go through the list that there are some that would be better if it wasn't me that was the reader of these books. If you have, let's say, words from a different language, or you have a different style of speaking, or the book has musicality to it, there may be someone else who's better suited to reading that book to your kids than you. Plus, also, we all just need a break sometimes, and we have downtime in our classroom where we aren't necessarily available to read to them. So, videos are an amazing option for kids. You can have them available for students to use, like in a center. You could have them available when kids are waiting for the bus. They could just be playing. Kids could be enjoying them when they're entering in the morning. Wouldn't it be cool to enter and start your day with a story? When you have a sub, cue a few of these up, and the sub can just play them for the kids. It's low stress for the sub. They're going to be able to handle everything okay. And when you just need a break, if you just need 5 minutes here or there, if you need, they're coming in from recess and they're wild and you just need a cool down activity, or you need to catch up on some correcting and you want the kids to be able to do something that's going to be really valuable for them that you don't always have time for, you can queue up some great Readalouds. All of these that you see on your screen are places where you can listen to other people read diverse books. Amazing resources. There's lots more on YouTube too. It's also a wonderful way if you are reading a book and you're not entirely sure how to say all the words or what the author intended or how to pronounce names or words in another language. Watch the YouTube video and either just have your kids watch that or use that to teach yourself how to say the things that you're not comfortable saying. Here's some other ideas for ways that you can add diverse books into your classroom. A social studies or science tie-in. So here are some questions. Can your kids identify the family structures in the story? Can they identify community helpers in the story? You could talk to them about, is this book set in a city or in a rural area, and what's the difference between those two? You can talk about the setting of the book in terms of time. Is it set in the present or the past? And how do they know that? If the book is set in another country or another place, how do they know that? What is the country and what is the place? Then you can get out the old map and see if they can find it on the map. You can use the pictures in the story as clues and see if they can figure out what is the climate, what type of biome is the book set in, and talk to them about the clues that they're using and how it is that they know that. You could also talk about, as you're talking about the map skills of finding a country or place on the map, what are the other countries of states that are near it? What continent is it on? What bodies of water is it near? All of that type of stuff. And then how is it alike or different from Maine? All of those are just some simple ideas that I had of ways to tie it in with social studies or science content that you're probably already doing. And that would work for most of the books. Character education and social emotional learning. So many of the diverse books lead naturally to amazing discussion on positive character traits and decision-making skills. One that I'm thinking of is, I'm going to talk to you today about a book that's called John's Turn, which is about a boy named John who has to do something that he's a little afraid to do. And you can see it all over his face. And then when he does that thing and he starts to be more comfortable and he starts to have success, his face shows a different, completely different demeanor. And the other kids around him sometimes contrast with him and sometimes reflect what it is that he's doing. But the illustrator does a really good job, and the illustrations are fairly simple, but they do a really good job of using the faces to show those inside feelings. There's a lot of feelings in all children's literature. These especially, I'm finding, have some amazing tie-ins to social emotional learning. Biographies. So picture book biographies have gotten really good. I remember when I was a kid, a biography was probably boring. It probably included boring basic facts about somebody's life, not a lot of interest, not my favorite thing to read. Now they are so good. They really draw you in. They're highly engaging for kids. Anytime we're sharing them with kids, they are all in, especially to the idea that the story is true. And a lot of times the people that are featured in the story are being highlighted because of the contributions that they've made, which very often tie in with history, social studies and science, art, or music. So that's tying in with the curriculum that we're already teaching. So if you're going to talk to the kids about someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, which we'll talk about later today, that's a great tie-in to all of the science that he has done such a good job in communicating to us. chapter book read alouds. So a chapter book read aloud can just be going all the time, and you squeeze a little bit in any spare minute. If you want to get your kids to do more of the reading, or you just don't have time to be consistent and say, okay, we're going to read this whole book and we're going to finish it, and I know every day we can find 10 minutes to read. If that's not you, I understand. Sometimes it's really unpredictable to be a classroom teacher. See that I work in the library now. There's something great that a lot of the middle school teachers do that's called First Chapter Friday, which is you have a certain day, or you can do it whenever, but they happen to do it on Fridays, that you just read a little bit of a new book. And then you say to the kids, hey, if you want to know what happens next, if this book was interesting to you, you can finish it. And then you don't have to worry about being able to continue the same book every day. It gets the kids excited, and then they're reading the books on their own, and then your work is done. So all of those are some great options for you of hopefully some inspiring ideas of where to find these books and get more ideas for books, if I don't give you enough, which I will, but also that you can bring these into your classroom without feeling like it's an add-on, it's another thing I got to remember now along with everything else that I'm doing to take attendance, to do the lunch count, to fit in all of these things that the kids are behind on because of COVID. And then now on top of that, I've got to read them diverse books. Hopefully this shows you how you can tie the diverse books into what you're already doing, and then also bring them in low stress ways like the videos that will hopefully make life a little bit easier for you. Okay, let's dive in and read some books. So I'm going to start with a book that inspired the whole idea for this presentation, and it's an oldie, and I'm sure that you already know it, but it's amazing. It's called The Snowy Day, and my mom taught kindergarten for a long time, and she used to call this the perfect picture book. I think because the things that it describes are things that kids can really relate to, even if they don't necessarily look like the character in the story or live in the same place as the character in the story. So, it's about Peter, and there's a snowstorm in his city, and he goes outside and plays in it, and he does all the normal things that kids do in the snow. And so it's easily relatable for kids to be able to say, that's something that I know how to do. I know that sound that he's describing. I know what those footprints look like. I know what the snowsuit feels like. And if they've never experienced snow, not a problem we have here. We have a lot of snow right now. If they've never experienced snow, this is a good way for them to kind of get an idea of what snow is. So that's a great classic one to try. I'm in the closet at the primary school, and I thought through how to get everything organized, except for once I'm done with this book, where do I put it? So I'm kind of going to just throw it over here for now. The next one is called We All Play, Kimatoa Miana. This book is partly in the Cree language, and the way that I know how to say those words, as best as I can say them, and it's always okay to tell the kids, this is new for me, this is not a word that I'm familiar with, and I'm doing my best to say it. I looked it up on YouTube. I found a native speaker that was reading the book and was able to say it the right way, and it took just a couple minutes to be able to say it. So, a little tip for you. We all play. Animals hide and hop, and sniff and sneak, and peek and peep, we play too. Kimatawano Miana. Here's my other tip, phonetically on the back. Animals swim and squirt, and bubble and bend, and chase and chirp. We play too. I love this book. I think it's perfect for pre-K, kindergarten, well, really any kid that would enjoy playing and maybe moving their bodies like animals. There's lots of yoga that you can do that's moving your body similar to an animal. That would be a great tie-in for this book. But even just talking to them about the idea that animals play and we play and we're all connected, that idea is the meaning behind the book, is that Native Americans embrace that idea that we are all connected, and that the type of play that we do is similar to the type of play that animals do. So we all play. This one is called John's Turn. this one's very fitting right now because as I'm making this, it's Christmas time, and we recently had a local performance of the Nutcracker, and one of our students at the high school was the Nutcracker, and he has dreams of becoming a professional dancer. So I think that he would really relate to John's story. So the idea behind the book is that in this school where John goes, every Friday they have an assembly. And if they have time at the end of the assembly, someone does something that's called sharing gifts. A student does sharing gifts. And it's a performance. So here's sorry. I'm not used to the whole idea of the camera and the left-right situation, so I'm doing my best, but it's a little weird. Okay, so here's a girl that is doing her performance, and here's somebody doing magic tricks. It's called sharing gifts. A lot of us think that's kind of a dumb name, but we also know that sharing gifts is the best. That, I think, is a totally relatable idea for kids, of being like, this is a little lame, but I totally love it, and don't ever take it away from me. Last week, Tina played tuba. Once Jesse did magic tricks. That was cool, but it was hard to see his cards from the back. Carla told us some jokes. Today was John's turn. John brought 2 bags to school, his backpack and one with his sharing gifts stuff. He was quiet at breakfast. We knew why. He was nervous. Another thing that I love about this book, the illustrations, you look at his face compared to the other kid's face, and you could get into a lot of social emotional discussion about what are they feeling, what is he feeling, why do you think he's feeling that way, how would you feel if you had to get up in front of the whole school. So here he is changing into his dance stuff. You can see from his face. Nervous. Same boy. I would not be able to do that. Then he introduced John. What's John gonna do? Andre asked without raising his hand. Mr. Ross looked at his paper. He's doing a dance. Cool, Andre said. He never raises his hand. So relatable. So here is John coming out. And I love that they say we could tell that his heart was beating real fast. And then the music starts. And you can tell from the kids' faces too. Some of them are not maybe necessarily into it. So we're going to check out John's facial expressions here as he dances. Starting to get into it. Move it up closer so you can see. We don't need any words. Showing all that motion is amazing. And here he is at the end. And then it's the kids' turn, and they applaud and support their classmate who did something really brave and did a really awesome job at it. This is John's turn. Soul Food Sunday, another one with the most amazing facial expressions by the illustrator. This boy, you know this boy when you see it. So it is Soul Food Sunday, and he is at his grandma's house, and he is learning how to make some of her favorite meals. She says, it's time, you need to learn, and you're going to learn. And I read in the author's note in the back, something that I learned from my friend Cheryl Mills is that there's a lot of times there's extra information in the back, and I always used to just say, okay, the book is over, but read that. There's some really great stuff in there that will help you understand the story and help you make it more relatable to your kids. And in the case of this book, I learned that the author used to call his grandma on the phone if he needed to learn how to cook something, and she would give him one step and then say, okay, do that and call me back. And so then he would do the step and he would call her back, and she would say, okay, how is it looking, making sure everything was correct, and then, okay, your next step is this, then call me back. And so they do that for the whole entire time it took him to make whatever it was he was trying to make. And he said that's how he learned to cook, which to me was so great. So it's Soul Food Sunday, and this little boy is going to learn how to cook. He's wearing his grandpa's army jacket. His grandpa was a chef in the army, and this is his chef's jacket. So he is a real chef, so he's gonna learn. I'm going to read you this and then show you the picture because this little boy is my soulmate. Granny drops blocks of cheese on the table. White cheese, yellow cheese, orange cheese, holy cheese. We need a whole lot of cheese unless mac and cheese is on the table. It's not Soul Food Sunday. I love mac and cheese. This is his face. I think this is the same face that I make when I see a lot of cheese. He's so cute. He's so cute. Okay, so now they're going to shred it up, and Granny is modeling, and the boy is doing, and you can see his concentration on his face. Shredding the cheese. My hands hurt, my arm aches, but I don't quit. Cheese stacks high like a mountain. I'm finished. Granny checks my work. Good job, baby. That's the best grated cheese I've seen in all my life. Look at him. He's so cute, and he's so excited to have made grated all of this cheese with his grandma. So they go on and they make all kinds of stuff. The uncle's outside doing barbecue. They make all these different foods for Soul Food Sunday. Again, very relatable for kids that in this family, they're making things that are passed down through their generations, and some of them are going to be similar to things that I might make in my family. Some of them might be a little bit different, but that feeling of like gathering together as a whole family and having a big meal and adults helping children learn how to cook and all of that, I think is very, very universal and relatable for kids. So a lot of cultures eat dumplings in various forms, and this book really highlights that idea. Dumplings for Lily. It's about Lily and her grandma, and they're getting ready to make dumplings, and they're missing an ingredient, and so Lily has to go to someone else in the building to get the ingredient that she needs. Her grandma lives in a sort of like women's retirement apartment complex, and so pretty much everybody in the building is a grandma of some sort. So Lily spends her time going up and down the building, finding the different ingredients that everybody needs to make their dumplings. So she's with her Nai, and they're making bows. And here it goes through exactly how to do that, what the steps are in making it. And the last step is to line the basket with cabbage leaves. And here is Nai getting into her produce drawer and discovering that her cabbage is not subpar. Zagao, Nai exclaims, we are out of cabbage. Nai asked me to see if Babsia on the 6th floor of our building has any cabbage we can use. Kiki and I say we'll be right back and rush out to the elevator. Oh no. We skip up the 5 flights of stairs to Babsia's apartment. Lily, exclaims Babsia, of course I have cabbage for your bows. She hands me a giant head in a bag. But I was just about to make pierogi before you came, and do licha. My potatoes are growing little sprouts out of their eyes, she said. Suddenly, her face lights up. Do you think you could do me a favor and borrow some potatoes from Grandma on the 2nd floor? Now, I know you all have read a lot of children's books, so you can see where this is going. Lily and her dog are going up and down the stairs of the apartment building all day to help the different grandmas make their different types of dumplings. So here's a map of every place that she goes. Here's all the different types of dumplings that they make and who makes what. And at the end of the book, they have a nice party outside with all the dumplings, sharing with each other, sharing their food and their culture with each other, to meet Lily's new baby brother. And of course, every good children's food book at the end has a recipe for how to make the food. So Dumplings for Lily is a great story about how we are all connected through this type of food called a dumpling. Everybody's is a little different, but that we can all be helpful to each other and share what it is that we eat and enjoy. When My Cousins Come to Town, another very relatable book. So this little girl, who's the main character of the book, is so excited when her cousins come to visit. She's the littlest, and they all have a nickname that fits them perfectly, except for her. And she's trying so hard to get a nickname before the summer ends. So here she is with all of her cousins and all of their nicknames. Shayna and Eli are my twin cousins. We call them Star and DJE because they are the musical duo of the family. They earned nicknames the summer they burst into song on the subway. People were clapping and cheering them on, and one person even gave them money. This summer I practiced singing in the bathroom mirror, but the neighbors bang on the wall to get me to stop. Then I tried a beatbox at the dinner table, but only managed to spit all over the bowl of collard greens. Charisse comes to town next. We call her Swift. One summer she challenged the fastest kid on our block to a race. She was 2 years younger than him, but left him in the dust. This summer I challenge anyone I can find to a race, but I end up wheezing after one block. She just has not found what it is that she is good at. But by the end of the story, her cousins help her figure out what it is that she's good at. I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you want to know what she's great at, you're going to have to read When My Cousins Come to Town. It'd be a great one for sharing with kids and talking about what their gifts are, what their strengths are, and finding the strengths in each other. Because it's actually the cousins who are able to show her what her strength is. Jabari jumps. This book is amazing. I love it so much. Any chance I get to share it with kids, I absolutely do. We've had it as a story walk before. It's just so adorable. I think this is probably the closest to the snowy day that I know of, because it's just a regular kid doing regular stuff that we can all relate to. So Jabari and his dad and his baby sister are going to the pool, the public pool, and Jabari is going to jump off the high dive, and he's so excited to be able to jump from the high dive. So here they are, the whole family, and Jabari has decided today's the day it's happening. Dad is maybe a little skeptical. So here he is. There's the high dive. This is his obstacle. Here's his dad with the backpack and the baby. As a mom, like, I feel that. Yeah, they're ready for a day at the pool. Jabari stood at the bottom of the ladder. He looked up. Here he is in line. You can go before me if you want, he told the kid behind him. I need to think about what kind of special jump I'm going to do. Jabari thought and thought. Relatable. Jabari started to climb, up and up. The ladder is very tall, he thought. Are you okay? Called his dad. I'm just a little tired, said Jabari. Maybe you should climb down and take a tiny rest, said his dad. A tiny rest sounded like a good idea. So today's not the day for jumping. Oh, and also, he's going to do his stretches. So today's not the day for jumping. So they go home, and his dad explains to him that it's really important. It's okay to be scared, and that he shares something that he does when he's scared, which is to think of it more as a surprise. And Jabari realizes that he likes surprises. So another time, when they come back to the pool, he makes it to the top. What a picture. I feel that picture. Someone with a little bit of a fear of heights, of that accomplishment and excitement for what's to come, but also fear in the moment. But he's up there, and he's doing it. And he looks all around him, and he can see all over his town. And then he's able to jump off the diving board and achieve his goal and have fun. And as soon as he does that, he's ready to go back up for a double backflip. So Jabari jumps. This is an amazing math book. Look, Grandma, Ni Elisi. It is about a boy named Bo, who is going to sell some marbles that he's made at the Cherokee National Holiday, which, if I were going to describe that to kids, I'd say they're going to basically like a craft fair. So different vendors set up tables, and your table has to be so big, and you can put all the things out on the table that you want to sell. So his family has bought a table. They all make different things that are all amazing and wonderful. And finally, his marbles are good enough to sell. And so he's so excited, and they're getting ready to go to the fair. And he needs a container for his marbles. So this book is about capacity. So here's Bo. He goes into the craft room, and he likes this pot, and he wants to put his marbles in, but too small. He goes into his room. He gets a shoebox, too small. Tackle box, too small. The wooden tray, perfect. Look, they all fit. You can see them all. Amazing. But he takes it to Grandma, and she says, but it's too big for the table. What you find for a container has to fit on this mat. So it has to take up less space on the table, but hold the same amount of marbles. So now we're talking about different shapes, volume in different shapes. So he keeps looking. So he finds a glass, all these different things, but he finds this glass jar that's long and skinny and looks amazing. But then he figures out that if all his marbles are in there and he's selling them, you can't get to the bottom ones. So that doesn't work either. So he's back to the drawing board and he finds all types of stuff. This is when he's tried everything and he's over it. So he's laying there, done. And then it says, then he saw it. And you can ask the kids if they see it. Do they see any containers here that maybe he could use? Because it's in this picture. He's got the perfect basket right in his room. So he tries it out, and it holds all the marbles. And everything fits inside. And he says, neat, Elise, this basket you made for me is just right. How she agreed. I knew you'd find something. She looked around the room because she had told him that she would help him, but she needed, like, he wanted it now and she could help him later. And I'll still help you like I promised. I'll help you clean up this mess. So he's got his perfect basket. He's got a big mess to clean up, but he's happy because he's found the right basket. And so then they go to the sale and his marbles are a huge success and everybody's really happy with them and he loves his container. This is a perfect tie-in for math. If you're talking about capacity and volume and capacity of different containers, you could reenact this exact scenario. You could bring in marbles or pebbles or some type of little fidgets or whatever and have different size and shape containers and have kids guess, are these all going to fit inside of here or are they not? Because sometimes something that looks really small, once you actually start putting things in, you realize it holds more than you thought, or vice versa. Which ones are sort of similar in size, which ones have a bigger capacity or smaller capacity. And if you have the challenge of this, of like, you have to fit them all in and it needs to only take up this much space, which would be the best container for you to achieve that task. So sort of a real world application, also tying in the Cherokee traditions that are in this story. So I think that would be a great one to try. Our next book is called Boogie Boogie Y'all, and I am not going to read this book to you. I'm going to let the expert do it, who is the author who wrote the story. This is the actual text from the book, and the author does an amazing job of reading it in a way that I just could not. It's pretty cool. Move myself out of the way. Here it goes. CG Esperanza, Boogie Boogie Y'all.
Boogie Boogie Y'all City, boogie all day. Boogie Boogie Y'all City, boogie all day. Boogie Boogie Y'all make a drum, don't run. The art on the wall makes the block man fun. Boogie Boogie Y'all, the kids boogie in the park. Jump, skip, hop, when dog begin a bark. Wow, 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 get the yard in the park. Wow, 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 get the yard in the park. Jump, skip, the slide to the hop. No one cares to bark about the yard in the park. Jump, skip, the slide to the hop. No one cares to bark about the yard in the park. Okay.
I guarantee your kids will be moving and grooving all over the place. This is an amazing book. And when I first opened it, I thought, okay, as a 46-year-old white librarian, this is not a book that I'm going to be able to read and do justice to, which is why I went to YouTube and found somebody doing it better than me, the actual author reading it in the way that it was intended. And so this is what I would use with kids, just because I can't do this for them in the way that he can. And I can't show them the background images and everything else to go with it the way that he can. So this really puts the whole book in context. So that's why I'm a huge fan of using things like YouTube videos when you're, say, not sure of the language, not exactly sure how the author intended for something to be performed, to be read, to either inform yourself so that you can do a really good job, or if they can do it better, let them do it and you sit back and enjoy with the kids. I mean, how do I even follow that? What am I doing? No, I got a bunch more awesome books for you to check out. This one is called Amira's Picture Day. This is about Amira, and it is picture day at her school, and it's also the holiday of Eid for her and her family. And she loves Eid. It's an awesome party, and this book kind of explains what they do during Eid, and it's like a child's dream. It's so much fun. But she's been looking forward to picture day for a really long time, and she doesn't want to miss that. She doesn't want to miss out on something that's happening at school that she's been looking forward to. To describe this to kids, I think sometimes we get nervous about, like, I don't know every detail about Eid. I don't know every detail about this religion. I'm not going to share this with kids because I don't want to get it wrong. But I think in order to share this, all you really need to know is Eid is a holiday. They understand what holidays are. They understand it means like celebrations and parties and probably family getting together and fun. And they would understand why she wouldn't want to miss out on that to do something at school. But at the same time, she's excited for the thing at school, which they will understand because they've all had picture day before. You can also, just like with the last book that we talked about, you can listen to a reading so that you know how to say all the words that are in the story. Or if you're not comfortable, find a reading that someone's doing where they're saying the words properly. Try your best and be confident in how you say them. So don't be like, I don't know, I'm not really sure, but try to be like, I'm pretty sure that this is how you say it, so I'm going to say it with confidence. And there's a lot of similarities and connections in this book. Even though we don't necessarily know everything there is to know about the holiday of Eid, there are so many things that kids can connect to in the way that they celebrate this holiday and the things that they do, that I think it would be a great chance to show them that maybe just because this is not something that you celebrate, there are so many amazing holidays in the world. This is one. And it still sounds really fun, and we can relate it to holidays that we do celebrate. It's easy at school to assume that everybody's celebrating the same thing, and that may not always be the case. So they're very, very excited for Eid, and it's picture day, and this picture right here kind of sums up her dilemma. So this is her picture day outfit that she's chosen, that she's excited to wear, and this is her Eid outfit that she's also very excited to wear. It's like choosing between two amazing things that she has to do. She has to decide what she's going to do that day, and they come up with an amazing solution that of course makes everybody happy and is perfect and is even better than if it was an Eid, the day that they had picture day. But I just love that connection to the idea that maybe we don't necessarily know what this holiday is, or maybe you have some kids that do, and that's amazing. Maybe they could help you a little bit. But we understand what a holiday is, and this is a holiday just like a lot of the ones that we celebrate. The Little Red Stroller. This is a great one for little ones or for people. Even older kids are very interested in babies and what babies do, and they understand about the idea of, I've used this when I was little and now I'm older and I don't need it anymore, and so I'm going to give it to someone who needs it. And the best part of this book for me, not just the whole circle of life situation, but also the idea that there's so many different kinds of families in the world, and they're going to show all of these families to you in this book. Excuse me. Okay, so here they are. The idea is this mom raises a baby. They have a little red stroller. They love their stroller so much, but when they outgrow it, they pass it on to someone else who can use it. So here we go. Here's all of the different types of families, different skin tones, different makeups of families, single parents, parents where they're both the same gender, what we would consider to be more just all different types of families all together in this neighborhood where they live. So they're passing it on and passing it on and passing it on and passing it on, and it goes to so many different types of babies. And in the end, it actually, the red stroller breaks and they end up with replacing it with a yellow stroller. But in the end, the yellow stroller, which there's no way to know that it's connected to the red stroller, wraps around to, this here is the baby from the beginning, is now an adult, and this is her baby. So a whole circle there, the little red stroller, all different types of families. Princess Truly. This is an adorable book, and it's a series. There's a bunch of them. But I love this book because it shows that sort of pinkalicious, fancy Nancy, glittery pink girl in a tutu that has a different skin tone. And here she is inside with her rainbows and glitter everywhere. She's a hero, and she is saving the world with her powers, which all have to do with rainbows and sometimes glitter. Here she's making a cake with her friend. She's very confident. She always knows the right thing to do. She comes up with clever solutions for different types of things. And it has that whole rainbows and glitter and sparkles and pink and fun world that we see in so many books for little girls that are almost always white girls. So it's nice to have Princess Truly, who lives in that same world, but is a black child. I think this one is my favorite. It's brand new. I think it does everything that we needed to do, which is it has different cultural elements that it's bringing in, but there's no need for any explanation of what those elements are. We don't need a whole background lesson in this area of the world. It just straightforwardly explains it in a way that's going to be very accessible for kids, and it's super fun. It's called Room for Everyone. They are in a $1, which is this. We don't need a whole lot of other explanation other than that. And they're going to the beach. The $1 rumbled and roared, and Musa and Dada were off to the shore to feast on fish at the Friday Bazaar by the blue crystal waters of Zanzibar. You can stop and explain to them where Zanzibar is and show it on a map and all those types of things. I don't think you have to. It's up to you. Soon after zooming past Zulika Street, they saw one old man and his bike with no seat. So the driver honked, pulled to the side, and asked, "Dear brother, do you need a ride? It's hotter than peppers out there in the sun. Come in. There's room for everyone." It has that Dr. Seuss sort of rhyme scheme to it, but it actually makes sense. These are real words, whereas a lot of Dr. Seuss is made up strange, and they're also very long, and this is going to move along a lot more quickly. I think it's got a lot more grab for kids. "But Dada," said Musa, "I don't think there is enough room for that man and that cycle of his." "Don't worry, Musa, there's space galore. If we move just a wee bit, we can make room for more." So in came the man with his sweaty old feet and his bike with no bell and no light and no seat. And after some wiggles and giggles and fun, they made enough room for everyone. Next, they passed the Balaga boats, and a herder appeared with 2 little goats. So the Dala pulled to the side, and the driver yelled, "Do you need a ride? It's hotter than peppers out there in the sun. Come in. There's room for everyone." "But Dada," asked Musa, "can there really be enough room for a cycle, 2 goats, and me?" "Of course there is. If we squeeze a bit, we'll make enough room for all of us to fit." And though the seating arrangement was tight, Musa could see that Dada was right. After a shuffle, a squirm, and a squeeze, they found a small space beside Dada's knees. Again, you know children's books, so you see where this is going. 3 people with their baskets of fruit. They're getting in the $1. There's no room. The man with his 4 pails of milk. In they go. 5 mamas. All the way to the end. There are 10 tourists that are in their scuba gear, and they really want to get to the beach. Although the $1 was packed from top to bottom and front to back, Musa yelled out, "Come join the fun, we'll make enough room for everyone." So the swimmers with snorkels and tubes and fins wiggled and giggled and wriggled right in. There's always a way, right? So here they are, all in the $1. Oh man. And you can see the children's faces. They're amazed that they all fit in there. And then they get to the beach, and of course, they all tumble out backwards. So 10 swimmers, 9 coconuts, 8 sugar canes, 7 umbrellas. So it's a counting book. So we go 1 to 10, and then we go 10 to 1 back down. And it's set in Zanzibar. And the pictures are amazing and everything is humorous, and kids will love the idea of, oh no, someone else has to squeeze in and now there's more people and they're still squeezing in and that one has more stuff, and how are they ever going to fit it in the dollar, and then they do it. So it has that silly element that I think is really going to appeal to kids. So Room for Everyone, I think, is my top pick of the entire list. I just love this book. I think it has huge potential. The Camping Trip. It's about Ernestine. She's never been camping before, but she's going camping with her aunt and her cousin. And this is 3 black women in the wilderness, which is not something that you see a super lot. I understand from some of my own research that I've done that sometimes it's not super safe for minority people to be in the woods, in the wilderness like that, because people are making assumptions about why they're there and they end up getting reported for doing things they're not doing or in unsafe situations. I hike a lot, and as a woman hiker, just being by myself, I know that I've gotten into some unsafe situations with not knowing the other person and people making assumptions. It can be a little scary out there. So it's great to see this nice positive portrayal of people that look different than what we are normally seeing in the wilderness, enjoying the wilderness and the outside together. So The Camping Trip is a really great story to start breaking down some of those stereotypes about who does and doesn't belong in the wilderness. So here they go. When Samantha is finally done swimming, we eat lunch. They do all sorts of things. They put up the tent, they pack the car, they go swimming. The girl doesn't want to go swimming because like it's a pond and she's used to pools, but her cousin is having a great time. Let's go on a hike. I love to hike. My dad says hiking is just walking, but in nature instead of the city, and I walk to school every day. So here she is with all of her stuff. And if you've ever hiked before, you know less is more. When you're at home, you're like, I need all this stuff, and then you get on the hill and you're like, why did I bring all this crap? Now I have to carry it. So that is what the Ernestine is figuring out right now. Here's what I need to go hiking: backpack, hat, sunglasses, whistle, camera, water bottle, sunblock, granola bar, trail mix, apple, raisins, leftover chips, cheese stick, peanut butter crackers, cookie, bandages, Foxy, who's her little toy. There are a lot more hills here than on my way to school. My feet are tired and achy. Maybe I brought too much stuff. I think I need a water break. When we finally stop, I eat a lot, so my backpack will be lighter on the way back. Anybody who's hiked with children before? This is a universal truth. They bring all the stuff and then they don't want to carry it. And then I love in this book, they have these huge expanses of pictures that just show wilderness. They do it a few different times, and it just shows how it really is out there when you're totally surrounded by it, and the magic that can happen when you're showing kids these types of amazing things for the first time they're exploring. It's way easier to hike downhill. When we get back to the campsite, Samantha and I set up the campfire. What's for dinner? Tofu, hot dogs, and broccoli salad, my favorite. Tofu hot dogs are not my favorite, but I'm really hungry. And then they get to try s'mores, which Ernestine has never tried. So here they are making it, and she loves them. So she has a wonderful time on the camping trip. She learns all sorts of things about the wilderness and the world that she didn't realize. She gets a little homesick, but she overcomes it. She does eventually swim in the water, and I just love this idea of the representation of all types of people, all genders, all races, all different looking people being able to enjoy the outdoors together. Helps make it safer for all of us. This is a Maine book. This is from Anne Sibley O'Brien, which you might remember from other books in the past. And this book was inspired by some of the immigrant communities that were coming to Maine. And this book is called I'm New Here. It's about new arrivals, learning the new language and the culture. And while sometimes we don't think that this is Maine, it's based in Maine. It is happening all around Maine all the time. So here's Maria. I am new here. Here's some other students who are new. And it talks about what their life might be like, that they knew the language before. Now there are different words that they don't understand. And even the sounds of the words are strange. The letters are all new. So it puts in perspective for kids all the things that we take for granted, that we understand the language that the teacher is speaking, that we've seen English letters before, even if kids don't necessarily know how to read them. Feeling like part of the group at home and feeling like different here. It explains the feeling that a kid might feel if they are different than everyone else at school, especially if they don't understand the language. And there's also here he is, learning some new words, learning some new things, supportive friend. There is a companion book called Someone New that shows from the other kid's side some things that they can do, that helpful things that they can do in the classroom. So this is I'm New here. Also, Someone New is another great option. This next book is very timely. It is actually about COVID and the moment when we went from everyone being outside and inside together to some people being outside, the community helpers, and other people being inside and helping by staying out of the way, basically, and not interacting with other people. It really puts an emphasis on the idea of community helper. So if that's something that you're studying, you can definitely find a lot of examples in here. Also the idea of family and what is a family and turning to your family in a time like this. And also the idea that we are just in this situation, we were all in this together. So it's a community group effort in order to improve things, and everybody has to play their part. And for some people, your part is to stay home and stay to yourself. And for other people, your part is to be out doing other things. I thought they did a really good job of explaining that in this book, which is called Outside Inside. Something strange happened on an unremarkable day just before the season changed. Everybody who was outside went inside. All over the world. Everyone, everywhere. All over the world. You may have kids who don't really remember anything before this, so this would be interesting to share with kids who don't have the perspective of living, like myself, 40 some years of normal before COVID happened. Everyone just went inside, shut their doors, and waited. Well, almost everyone. Some people needed to be perfect point for the kids to say, look at this picture. How many community helpers can you find, and what are their jobs and what are they doing? Where they needed to be. So here's some more. Outside, inside. Here are things we were doing inside. Remote school. So it explains how things were happening, like driving parade birthday parties, doing some limited outdoor activity, but for the most part, we were inside. And then it goes into why. Why did we all do that? Why did we all go inside when we were used to being outside? Mostly because everyone knew it was the right thing to do. On the outside, we are all different. But on the inside, we are all the same. Kind of a great theme for today. So outside, inside. Carpenter's Helper. This is Renata and this is Poppy. And they are renovating their bathroom. And one night they leave the window open because they've been working on it and they aren't able to close it up yet. And a family of wrens moves in and builds a nest. And so then they can't close it and they can't continue their renovations because the wrens are living in the bathroom. So here's the wren coming in with his twig. And Renata's like, what? But she gets to see the whole process. If you do the life cycle, the bird's nest and birds laying eggs and all that type of stuff, this would be a great book to tie in with that. Because here's the whole process of making the nest. She and her dad looking into the nest. Again, this mirror action is weird. And here come the little birds. And they're able to watch the whole process of the life cycle of the birds as they grow, and eventually they start being able to fly, learning to fly. And then when they can fly out the hole, then Renata and her dad can actually finish their renovation. If you're doing life cycle of birds, this would be a great way to bring that concept in a cute story that's very relatable, that also has some wonderful representation. So Carpenter's Helper. This book has been getting a lot of buzz. I've seen it a lot of places on a lot of like best of lists. And I think it's because it's sort of similar to something like The Napping House, where you have something happens and it's a chain reaction. Or also if you give a mouse a muffin, if you give a pig a cookie or whatever. All of those ones too, it's very relatable. There's a really familiar pattern to it, which I know is great for kids. And it's called Everybody in the Red Brick Building. Everybody in the red brick building was asleep. Until baby Izzy sat up in her crib and howled. Wah! Woken up by the wah, Rayhan tiptoed out of bed to check on his parrot. Wah! Wake up! Woken up by the wah and the rah! Wake up! You gotta get all your voices out for this book. Benny pulled Cairo and Miles from their sleeping bags and challenged them to a game of flashlight tag. Pitter, patter, stomp. So as the book goes on, all of the sounds repeat, and different people and more people get up and wake up in the night. And then eventually, here's all the sounds. Eventually, one by one, they start going back to sleep. So just like Room for Everyone, it's that whole idea of things going up and increasing, and then reaching sort of a boiling point climax to the story, and then decreasing again. Good way to teach that skill of like the building and denouement in a fiction story. Just a Minute is a great trickster tale about the most clever grandma. A lot of different cultures have the idea of a trickster tale, and this one is an original story. This is not a classic story, but it's sort of based in some classic characters. Okay, just a minute. This is Senor Calavera, and he is a skeleton, and he's sort of like a Grim Reaper character, but they don't really explain that in the book. He just has come to visit Grandma and take her somewhere, and she does not want to go because she's got a lot to do. She's a busy lady. She doesn't have time for this. When Grandma Beetle woke at dawn, she heard a knock at the door, and oh my, waiting outside, she found Senor Calavera. Senor Calavera tipped his hat. What a skinny gentleman. With a pass of his hand, he signaled to Grandma Beetle. It was time for her to come along with him. Just a minute, Senora Calavera, Grandma Beetle said. I will go with you right away. I have just one house to sweep. Senor Calavera remembered he had extra time today, so he decided to wait. Uno, one swept house, counted Senor Calavera, and he rose from his seat. Just a minute, Senor Calavera, Grandma Beetle said. I will go with you right away. I just have 2 pots of tea to boil. Senor Calavera sighed. Waiting a little longer wouldn't hurt anybody after all. Dose. 2 steaming pots of tea, counted Senor Calavera as he headed for the door. Just a minute, Senor Calavera, Grandma Beetle said. I will go with you right away. I just have 3 pounds of corn to make into tortillas. Senor Calavera rolled his eyes. He had to be very patient sometimes. 3 stacks of tortillas, counted Senor Calavera, and he put on his hat. So she's not going with him. She's just going to keep just a minute, 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 until the end of the story, where she actually has a great big party. She invites him to be a guest at her party, And then he decides that after the party's over that he's just going to leave. And so here are all her grandchildren loving on her. She gets to stay in her house. She doesn't have to go with him. So she has been the one to trick him, which is a really cool spin on the trickster tale. It's time for some nonfiction. Nonfiction in children's books, if you haven't looked at any new stuff in a while, has really, really improved. There's a lot of really interesting and appealing nonfiction that can be even more engaging than fiction stories, because at the same time you can say to kids, not only is this a cool story, but also this is true, this is real, this really happened. So this first one is called Harvest Days, Giving Thanks Around the World. Of course, a lot of us are going to talk to our students about Thanksgiving and how we celebrate Thanksgiving. These are different ways that people celebrate similar types of holidays all around the world. Each one is going to be a 2-page spread showing the people, explaining to you briefly what the holiday is, and also where in the world it's celebrated. And it gives you a pronunciation down here and a little bit of extra information over to the side that you can use to support your students in their learning about these different traditions. And what is very cool is not only do we get to see all of the beauty of these different holidays and some of the symbols that they're using and the colors and the activities that they're doing, but also it's really easy to draw connections and say, oh yeah, this is similar to something that I do. So here's a good example. This is Homowo, which they celebrate in Ghana. And it says in the sidebar here, at Homowo, the Ga people of Ghana laugh at hunger and remember when they overcame starvation. That reminds me, I can make the connection to the pilgrims that I learned about on Thanksgiving and how they were celebrating Thanksgiving because they had overcome a dark period where they thought that they were probably going to starve, and some people had starved, and now they had a bounty that they could share, and they were so happy about that and celebrated that. And that's one of the reasons that we celebrate Thanksgiving now. At Homowo each year, the Ga people recall dry days in the past when the harvest was small. Now, laughing at hunger, we all dance and sing. We're thankful for rain and the harvest it brings. There are so many different ones from all over the world. You could look at this picture with kids and say, what climate do you think that this is? What biome do you think that this is? Can you tell from the pictures anything about this area of the world? And even though this is at harvest time, it looks like it's a lot warmer than it is here in Maine at harvest time. And I see palm trees and I see a lot of feathers, and I wonder how that connects to the area of the world. Here's another one. Here's one. This is La Tomatina, which is in Spain. They're throwing the tomatoes at each other because they have such a bountiful harvest of tomatoes. Sorry, I can't get this turned the right way. That they are able to actually waste them, some of the not so great ones, by having fun and having a food fight and throwing them at each other. So there's lots of different examples in here, ones that will really appeal to kids, like the tomato one, ones that they can make connections to and say that's similar to a holiday that I celebrate or I know what that is. Harvest Days, Giving Thanks Around the World. This one is a biography, When the Beat Was Born, DJ Kool Herc and the Creation of Hip Hop. I happen to be a huge hip hop music fan. I just love it. And I think that for kids, a book like this can be really relatable because while it's interesting and all and can be culturally helpful to learn about someone like Beethoven, it's not very relevant to their life. It's just as much as this. This is the type of music that they hear all the time, every day on the pop radio stations from older brothers and sisters. Even on some of the kids shows that they're watching, they might integrate some hip hop music. It's just all around us all the time. And to learn where that music has come from can be really influential for kids. I'm not saying we gotta drop Beethoven. Beethoven is cool. And a lot of the older white historic composers that we hear about, cool and interesting, relevant to today all the time, every day. So When the Beat Was Born. This is Wilma Unlimited. It's about Wilma Rudolph. She is just the most extraordinary person. And this is what I like about the way that children's biographies have improved so much, is that it doesn't just get at, these are like facts about their life, when they were born, when they were died, when they were president, when they did this, when they did that, blah, 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 blah. But it really gets into the things that make them different and extraordinary. And sometimes people that you hear about a little bit and go, oh yeah, she was in the Olympics, she ran fast, whatever. When you really get into what went into that for her, It's incredible. She was one of 22 children. She was very sickly. She couldn't walk when she was a child. She wore leg braces. She didn't walk until she was like mid-elementary school. She wore leg braces, I think, until she was 12. She and her mom used to have to go to the hospital once a week on the bus. I mean, what she overcame was amazing. So she was wearing leg braces until she was 12. By high school, she was an All-American in basketball, which wasn't even the sport she went to the Olympics for. That was track. So she went to the Olympics for track and field as a high school student, and then again as an early adult. She won 3 golds, and she set 3 world records by age 20, 8 years after being in leg braces, and about 14-ish years after being able to walk at all. I mean, she just is an amazing person, all she went through to be able to get to the point where she's at, being one of 22 kids alone and being able to be an Olympic athlete. It's pretty amazing, pretty extraordinary, everything that she was able to do. And then when she retired from running, you know what she became? A teacher. She's just the coolest. Wilma Unlimited. This is Look Up With Me, and it's about Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I'm going to read you the foreword that he wrote. Most grown-ups have forgotten what it was like to be a kid. Some don't remember on purpose, hurrying life along as fast as they can. For others, memories of being a kid simply faded from view. I'm a full-grown grown-up. In fact, I'm so grown up that I have grown-up kids of my own. But I still feel like a kid. I felt like a kid my entire life. Why? Because I'm a scientist. Scientists are kids who never lost their natural childhood curiosity about the world. Kids who lose that curiosity, usually around middle school, become normal adults, but kids who retain that curiosity eventually become scientists, either in their hearts or in their professions. So even as you grow older, never stop being a kid. This will guarantee that the world, even the universe itself, becomes and remains your playground of curiosity. So I didn't know a whole lot about Neil deGrasse Tyson before I read this book, but he talks in the story about how he was really interested in science from a small age, and especially space, and he raised money himself to be able to buy a telescope so that he could learn about the stars. And he eventually started teaching people in his neighborhood what he knew and showing them his telescope, which led to him directing the Hayden Planetarium, and then going on to be sort of a public face of space and science and an expert that can convey those concepts in a really attainable way. So, cool guy, a cool story, and it talks about his childhood and how it led up to him being the success that he is now. Look Up With Me, biography of Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now we're going to talk about some easy readers. So the transition into chapter books from picture books. So everything from, this is the first one we're going to talk about, which is Don't Throw It to Mo. That type. To probably the most difficult here, I think, is Jada Jones, which is getting pretty close to a chapter book. So they're all sort of in between there to try to transition kids into that more text-heavy type of book. So Don't Throw It to Mo is part of a series. Mo does all different types of sports, and he gets into silly situations where he has to sort of figure out what to do, or where people he's very little, and so a lot of times people underestimate him because of his size, which is what happens in this book. So Mo is excited. He's on his football team, and he's really pumped to be playing, and he is little. And so they do all sorts of different practice things, but one of the things his coach has him do is he throws him a football with butter all over it, and Mo has to catch it. And of course it's hard for him to do, and the ball is slipping and sliding all over the place, and the other team sees him trying to catch the butter football, and they think, oh, that kid can't play. But actually the coach has a little scheme up his sleeve. So here he is. You need to practice holding the ball even if it's slippery, says his coach. And so here he is, trying to catch it. Here's the other side. Other team, the big guys, are like, he's too small. Jay sees Mo and said he's too small to play. Coach Steve tosses Mo a football. Mo drops it. The Jays laugh. He's small and he's a Butterfingers. They are right. The ball he dropped was Coach Steve's buttered football. So he's sitting on the bench, he's watching the game, he's washing off his hands, and here's his teammates. And eventually, coach says, I'm going to put Mo in. And the other team is like, yeah, but he's Butterfingers. We're not even going to guard him. And coach says, I'm going to put him in. He's going to go long, but don't throw it to Mo. So he does that once. He does it twice. And now the Jays are like, they're not even going to throw it to him. We're not even going to guard him at all. We're going to stand back and wait. And guess what happens? Mo keeps running. They throw the football. He won't get to it. He's too small. But he keeps running. And he does get to the ball. He won't catch it. He's a Butterfingers. There's no butter on this ball, but they don't know that. And he catches it. He runs the ball past the goal line. The Robins win. They cheer. So the text is very, very simple. But the kids will get it. Coach Steve, Mo says, your plan won the game. No, it didn't, the coach said. You won the game. You are the one who caught the ball. Relatable feelings, relatable ideas. Of course, sports is always an appeal. So don't throw it to Mo. King and Kayla. Oh, that's a series, but all of these are series. So King and Kayla is a series. This is the case of the lost tooth. But King and Kayla are a dog and his owner, or his person, who solve mysteries. So if you have kids that are fans of like A to Z mysteries, I don't know if you've ever read one of those, but this is sort of similar to that, but they're actually cute stories that make a whole lot of sense. They're told from the dog's point of view, and he talks about his human and how excited he is to meet her and how he wants to help her and those types of things. So it's just really clever and cute, and the kids really enjoy them. This is one that they ask me for when they get older and are probably technically too old to still be reading this, but they just love it so much that they want to come back to it. So, here's the basic premise. Hello, my name is King. I'm a dog. This is Kayla. She's my human. We are detectives. So Kayla loses a tooth at school, but the tooth never made it home. And King is going to help her find it. So, of course, with his sense of smell, he can smell sort of where the tooth has been, and he's going to try to backtrack and figure out where the tooth has gone. And here they are with Mason, who is their neighbor, and they're trying to figure out. Mason brings Kayla some paper and a pencil. Let's make a list of everything we know about this case, she says. 1, my tooth is not inside the tooth fairy pillow. 2, it is not inside my backpack. 3, it is not inside the car. If I could write, I would add this to Kayla's list of things we know. Mason's hand smells like Kayla's teeth. Now let's make a list of what we don't know about this case. 1, how could a tooth disappear from inside the tooth fairy pillow? 2, did the tooth fairy take my tooth? 3, why didn't she leave me any money? If I could write, I would add this to Kayla's list of things we don't know. Why does Mason's hand smell like Kayla's teeth? Did he accidentally take Kayla's tooth and put it in his pocket? Now we need a plan, Kayla says. I have a plan. Search Mason. Very popular with kids. Highly recommended. Ling and Ting. These are twins. This one's called Together in All Weather. This is a whole series. There's a bunch of different ones. They are silly. The things that they do are silly. So in this one, they've made a lemonade stand. And they are trying to sell their lemonade for 5 cents a glass. Here they are. The sun is bright. It is hot. No one comes to buy the lemonade. Ling and Ting wait. I would like some lemonade, Ting said. Ting, Ling said, the lemonade is for sale. You must buy the lemonade. Ting buys a glass of lemonade. She gives Ling a nickel. Ling puts it in the little box. Now we have earned a nickel, Ling says. Ting says. I would like some lemonade, Ling says. You must buy it too, Ting says. Ling buys a glass of lemonade. She gives Ting a nickel. Ting puts it in the little box with the other nickel. Now we have earned 2 nickels, Ting says. Ling says. Ling, Ting says, there are 2 nickels in the box. We have earned 2 nickels together. Yes, Ling says, there is 1 nickel for you and 1 nickel for me. Who has a prediction of what they might do with those nickels? I'll take my nickel now, says Ting. She takes 1 nickel from the box. I would like to buy another glass of lemonade. She gives Ling the nickel. Ling puts the nickel back in the box. Then Ting drinks another glass of lemonade. Ling watches her. I will take my nickel now, too, she says. She takes a nickel from the box, then she gives the nickel to Ting. I would like to buy another glass of lemonade, too. The sun is bright. It is hot. Ling and Ting buy more lemonade. Ling and Ting drink more lemonade. Soon the lemonade is gone. Good job, Ting says. We sold all the lemonade. Yes, Ling says. We did sell all the lemonade, but we did not make a lot of money. These two remind me a lot of my favorite, Frog and Toad. If you like that sort of silly, getting into situations where kids can see that what they're doing doesn't make any sense, but they can see why Ling and Ting think that it makes sense, this would be a great one to try. They are really short stories, so each one is a different story with a different plot to it. So they'd be great for like when you just have 5 minutes here and there and you don't know if you're going to have consistent amounts of times to read to them. They're great to just drop into and drop out if you don't need to read the whole thing. Jada Jones Rockstar. This is the one that is a little bit more text heavy inside. Jada Jones thinks there's nothing cooler than rocks, so when her teacher gives the class a group project on rocks and minerals, Jada knows she is going to rock the assignment. Her only problem is finding a group of friends to work with. For Jada, rocks are easier to find than friends. I think a lot of kids can relate to that idea of the group project and not always knowing who you're going to work with. So this series is like normal social situations that kids find themselves in and how Jada navigates them in order to find a good solution that works. Jojo McCoons. I think I am most excited about this one. It's really, really new, and it has a lot of possibilities that I think are really exciting. It's very Junie B. Jones. Jojo lives on a Ojibwe reservation, and her teacher is white, and she lives with her mom and her grandfather and her cat, who she's crazy about. And so there's a lot of like cultural differences between her and her teacher that can be very funny. And then there's also she has just like Junie B. Jones or even Amelia Bedelia, that confusion about stuff that the rest of us understand. Like in one of the books, they go to gym as a class and they have gym in the gym, and she thinks the teacher's name is Jim. It's that type of stuff a lot of the time. Here's a good example of that. So here she is with her mom, and she's getting the mail. Mama, I yelled when I get back to the house. He wrote to you again. Jojo, who wrote to me? Mama asked. Mama looked at the letters. Bill sends a lot of letters to Mama. Then each month she looks at them and all gives a big puffy outy breath. Mama's eyebrows get smushed when she reads his letters. She must not like him. But she writes back all the time. She even sends him money. That Bill guy, he writes a lot of letters. Mama, are there any letters from me? No, but Jojo, do you ever write letters to anyone? Mama asked. Well, last year I wrote one to Mimi when I was sick in bed, but she never wrote back. Mimi is the cat. My name is Jojo. Who does this remind you of? My name is Jojo. You can call me Jojo. I am 7 years old and in the 1st grade, which is funny because I never went to 0 grade, only kindergarten. I hope they don't send me back to 0 grade. Or maybe I'm very smart and I got to skip 0 grade. When I was little, like 2 years ago, I thought my real big name was Jojo McCoon's Azure Get to Your Room. But that is very silly. Mama only calls me that when I'm in trouble. I think you can hear the similarities between her and some other favorites that we have. So if your kids like that sort of thing, this would be another one to give a try. And even if you haven't tried those, trying this one maybe in replacing some of the other ones that you've been reading that you know are more typically culturally similar to the other books that you're reading, this one would have a little bit of the difference and still have the humor and the quick moving plot and the short length and a little bit of picture support that your kids will really enjoy. So Jojo McCoon's, this is a series. This one's called Fancy Pants. It's number 2. They Used to Be Best Friend is number 1, which we also do have. Thank you so much for paying attention to this and listening to it and learning about all of these books. If there's anything that I can do to help you at all in trying to integrate some more of these into your practice, please let me know. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to share books with you if you are a Spruce person or if you're local and I can get them to you. I'm happy to talk with you about different ideas that you might want to use and help you make sure that you are bringing a little bit more different, fresher ideas into your classroom all the time. Thank you so much.